All right.
Good evening. The Sparta Board of Education regular meeting is called to order at 7 p.m. Ms. Serafino, may you please read the meeting notice announcement.
Adequate notice of this meeting has been provided in accordance to the Open Public Meetings Act, NJSA 10:46 and PL 2025. Notice was published on the Sparta Township Public School official website at www.sparta.org. Notice has been filed with the municipal clerk and posted in a conspicuous location on the Sparta Township Public School website as required by law.
Thank you so much. Roll call, please.
Dr. Hinkle? Mr. Lakaruva?
Present.
Mr. Lowry? Present. Dr. Martinez?
Present.
Ms. Knoll?
Here.
Ms. Williams?
Present.
Mr. Wood?
Here.
Ms. Serafino?
Here.
And Ms. Gagnon?
Present.
Quorum confirmed.
Thank you. Please join us for the pledge. And we will not be convening into closed session this evening, so we'll jump right into our presentation, starting with 5.1, our tentative budget presentation, which will be offered by Dr. Beck, our superintendent, and Ms. Barbara Decker, our business administrator.
Good evening, everyone. Tonight we're going to be presenting the fiscal year 27 or the 26-27 tentative budget presentation. This tonight's presentation is the tentative budget presentation. This will be just presenting what is in the budget for next year and then getting the board's approval to submit it to the county. I'll talk more about the process in a minute. One thing I would like to note is that I've been a superintendent since 2016, so this is the 10th budget that I am creating, and I can tell you that this is by far the most challenging budget that I've ever created. So we'll talk about what went into the budget and what made it so challenging. First, talk about the timeline of how we ended up here tonight. Back in September, we received notification from our health insurance carrier that there would be significant health insurance increases for next school year. We had heard about it all summer that it might be, and then in September, we were officially notified. That led us to kind of speeding up our timeline and getting ahead of this as much as we could because we knew there'd be a lot of work to do. So from November of 25 through December of 25, the department and the buildings developed their budgets. And from January through March, really through tonight, there's been ongoing budget development through administration and board discussions. So tonight is the tentative budget. As I said, we are looking to present to the Board of Education, get the Board of Education's approval to submit this budget to the county. The county then has possession of our budget, and they will go through our budget to make sure that the line items are within code, within certain ranges. And then the county will come back to us with an approved budget. That county approved budget will then be represented at the April 29th board meeting, which will be a public hearing for the budget. So between tonight's submission and the April 29th public hearing, there can be some minor revisions, some minor shifts within the budget, but tonight's presentation and what we submit to the county will be a very good idea of what our budget will look like. Go through the budget process. As we do every year, we used zero-based budgeting, which means we don't simply roll over our budget from one year to another. We, in theory, start the budget at zero and build it from there, which means that everything that goes into the budget needs to be necessary and needs to be vetted as necessary for the budget. We work closely with budget secretaries. We work closely with the administrative team, going through a continuous review process and working closely and updating the finance committee and the board along the way. Some highlights that you'll see in this budget. In the budget for next year, the programs are maintained throughout the district. There is technology provisions for ongoing upgrades and maintenance to infrastructure, utilizing our E-rate federal funding. And some curriculum highlights. There's a new math program coming, K-5. There's new science resource renewal for 6 to 12. There's a non-academic skills screener in K-12, and we are moving forward with an AI tool called Brisk as well. We'll get into the increase in appropriations, which is really where the challenge lies in this budget. These are all the increases that appear within the budget. So salaries are increasing as they normally would, $1,443,000. The medical benefit increase for next year is $1,890,000. The prescription benefit increase is $694,000. And the liability insurance increase is $160,000. So just on this slide, the increases that we're looking at for next year amount to $4,187,000.
On the other side of that equation is the revenues, and you can see that we had a 2% tax levy included for the fiscal year 27 budget. That's $1,371,350. And then we had a lot of revenues that were included in this year that were high and that we needed to scale back on or wanted to scale back on. The first two being excess surplus and reserve accounts. We were hoping to be less reliant on them in fiscal year 27. Excess surplus is generated from the last fiscal year, the audit, and we've been relying on that quite heavily. The auditors even recommend we push that down or strive to use less surplus. So that was the intent with the big picture, as well as the reserve accounts. We have both capital and maintenance reserve that we'll talk about more later. We were trying to be less reliant on them as well. Extraordinary aid is something we budget, and there's an application submitted to the DOE every year for those expenses that are extraordinary for some of our students in the special ed population. They're refunded by the state each year, but the refund amount in that calculation or formula is changed every year. So again, we were trying to scale back on the X-aid in I guess, preparing for a possible decrease in the actual aid that we receive. The Fund 30 transfer is a one-time revenue source in fiscal year 26, and it's a result of funds being left over from the ESIP program, so that's not even an option for fiscal year 27. And our interest was leveraged pretty high as well. And we figure with the overall economy, checking with the bank that we're currently with, that it was necessary to scale back the interest that we anticipated earning as well. And then, of course, the state aid came in at $187,001 less than anticipated. So although we have a 2% increase on the levy, those revenues actually went down by $272,649.
So as Ms. Decker explained, typically when you start with the appropriations, then you go to the revenue. The revenue is supposed to get you closer to the appropriations. And actually, in this case, in a very unique year, the revenue actually takes us further away from the appropriations, making the appropriations deficit larger, as you see here. The slide that I went through, as a reminder, was the increase in appropriations, which was $4,187,000. What Barbara just showed you was a decrease in revenue, which actually tacks on to the deficit. So you add those two numbers together, and the total deficit that we are looking at this time is $4,459,649. And I wish it stopped there, but it doesn't. We had not, at that time, accounted for increase in instructional needs, transportation needs, an increase in utilities, buildings and grounds projects, and capital projects. When you add those items together, you get $980,000, digging us into a deeper hole as far as our deficit goes. So the total deficit from the previous slide is right there, and then you add on the $980,000. The grand total deficit, you can see why I said this was the most challenging budget that I've helped create. The grand total deficit that we were facing heading into this budget was $5,439,649. I'm sorry. So that's the deficit that we started at, and the next couple of slides will show you how we started to close the gap on that deficit.
The first and largest help with helping close that gap is the district joining the ACES program. The ACES program is an alliance for cooperative energy. It's through New Jersey school boards. We joined that as of March 1st of this current year, and it runs through May of 2026. So that allows us to reduce the amount of money that was budgeted for the electricity for the district, which is a significant savings. We are also looking into that right now to see if we can join the alliance for natural gas as well, but we do not have a concrete answer on that as of this point. The next large help in closing that gap was the reduction in medical insurance renewal. Initially, our advisors had braced us for very, very steep increases in both medical and prescription, or RX, and we later on found out that we could back those increases down slightly. That helped close the gap. We were not able to reduce that surplus that we had put on the original screen for reducing the revenues. We had to push that back up. We also had to rely on both maintenance and capital reserves. So this budget for fiscal year 27 absolutely includes withdrawals from both reserve accounts to help balance the budget. And then there's also a healthcare adjustment that was generated in fiscal year 27's budget. It's through the budget process, and we'll talk about that more later. And that helped us balance the budget too. That helped us push the tax levy up from the 2%. So it was definitely a large portion of us being able to balance out the budget.
Moving along further into some groupings, some categories of some budget lines that we were able to reduce. We reduced the athletics and co-curricular budgets. We reduced the building level budgets. We eliminated late busing at the middle school and the high school. We reduced the ESY staffing hours by 30 minutes per day. We are looking to instructional devices, the buildings and grounds who are in need of a truck and a van, and transportation who are in need of a 24-passenger bus. We backed all of those out of next year's budget with the hopes of trying to purchase some, if not all, of those last three bullet points out of this year's budget, if we can. And then, unfortunately, when you're talking about over a $5 million deficit, you can't overcome that deficit without revising your personnel structure, without reducing personnel. So in this budget, there's a total certified staff position reduction of 17 staff members. But those are not all 17 current staff members that will not be employed next year or losing their jobs. Some of those will come through attrition of annual non-renewals, which happen every year. If we don't renew somebody, maybe we don't backfill that person. Retirements, same thing. When retirements are issued, maybe for some of those retirements, we don't backfill those positions, so the top two can come from attrition. There's an SMS schedule revision, which we are getting ready to roll out soon after the budget is approved, and more on that will be coming. And of course, then when all of those other top three things fail, we'll have to resort to an actual reduction in force on top of those things, but 17 certified staff members. But we didn't just look at certified staff, of course. We looked at all staff in the district, and that we will be reducing 10 staff members as a result of the restructure of central office staff, administration, and support staff. This is the tax levy for next year's budget. You can see that the tax levy for the budget for the current year, the year that we're living in, the tax levy total was $68,567,602. The 2% increase, which is allowed by law, which we typically go to every year, gets you an additional $1,371,352. And then the healthcare adjustment that Ms. Decker just spoke to gets us an additional $677,111. With the healthcare adjustment and the 2% increase, the total fiscal year 27 local tax levy will amount to 2.99%. And you can see the big number there of what that tax levy is total. And just for your information, the tax levy is 88% of our total revenues.
So that healthcare adjustment that we've been speaking of, when we go into the budget software from DOE and we enter fiscal year '26 adjusted figures for our expenditures under healthcare area of the budget, as well as our projected numbers for fiscal year '27, behind the scenes calculations take place, and there are two forms of adjustments that the district can be entitled to, any school district, whether it's enrollment or healthcare. We were entitled to, based on the information between '26 and '27 budgets, we were entitled to a healthcare adjustment of just over $2 million. It was $2,005,103, I believe was the exact amount. So of that $2 million that was generated through the budget process, $677,111 is included in the current, with the tax levy, to increase that tax levy up to 2.99. Then the remainder of that money that is not used this time in the budget process falls into banked cap, and we'll speak about that again in another slide.
Too far. Barbara alluded to state aid before. This is just a state aid comparison. Again, the fiscal year, the year that we're living in, the 25-26, you can see what our state aid total was. When we first started the budgeting process, we started budgeting with anticipation that we would get the same exact state aid. We were budgeting for flat state funding, which is really like a minimal expectation of what we thought we were going to get. So we carried over that $6,631,272 into the budget as we were planning for it. Then last week, the actual state aid numbers came out, and our state aid number went down. Actually, there was a state aid decrease of $187,001, which is a 2.8% decrease, and that's actually pushing the maximum decrease. The maximum decrease that you were allowed is 3%. The state's not allowed to decrease any district by more than 3%, and we were pushing that at 2.8%. And state aid is 8% of our revenue.
This slide just shows a summary of all of the revenue for fiscal year '27, that tax levy at $70,616,065, the state aid that we just talked about. The fund balance that you see is increased back up to basically what we're just about using this current year. The other local sources is the interest and the facility use that we generate by renting out our buildings and the building use. The semi is provided by the DOE. It's not a number that we arbitrarily calculate. It's the Special Education Medicaid Initiative, and it's where the districts across the state of New Jersey are able to be reimbursed for medically necessary expenses for our special needs students that would be medically necessary whether those students were at home or in school. So there's a tracking system to be part of that program and to claim the reimbursements. Extraordinary aid is also part of our revenue source, the withdrawal from the two reserves accounts to bring the general fund budget total to $80,120,240. Special revenue is another source of revenue for the district. It's grants and it's entitlements, and the district is entitled to both federal and state revenue source from these types of entitlements. The ESEA is the Elementary and Secondary Education Act, and there are three different groupings under that, Titles 1, 2, and 4, and the amounts are up there. Those titles are used for professional development. They're used to pay stipends for different services that our teachers may perform, and also provide services to our students. The IDEA, Individual with Disability Education Act, the basic comes in at about $599,000 it's budgeted, and that helps defray the costs of the out-of-district tuition that our out-of-district kids have. So on this slide, we're looking at $693,232 of special revenue or entitlements, both federal and, this is just federal, just federal. This slide shows the state. We have preschool education. That's a state entitlement. And based on our population for fiscal year '27 of students, we're entitled to $3,983,140. The district has to fund the portion of the special education population that sits within that general education setting. So that actually comes out to be about $413,000 that the district will contribute to the preschool education program. And then we had a $47 carryover, so total preschool is $4,396,112. Adding on also the federal entitlements from the prior slide of $693. Special revenue, or Fund 20 as I'll also call it, the entitlements is $5,089,344. So here's a revenue comparison. We're looking at fiscal year '27 on the left, fiscal year '26 that we're living in on the right, and you see that $2,048,000, which is the tax levy increase with the 2% and the entitlement, I should say really the healthcare adjustment. And then state aid down, fund balance is down just $53,820, ex-aid slightly down at $56,420, the semi is actually up. And then miscellaneous is basically our interest, that's down $80,502. So if you look at fiscal year '27 and fiscal year '26, we're looking at $1,691,209, or 2.2%. So although that tax levy is going up $299, it's really resulting in only a 2.2% increase of funds that the district can spend, or $1,691,209. So bank cap, I had mentioned that earlier, it's generated through the budgeting process. We had bank cap on tap already for the district. It was generated in fiscal year '25. That was a enrollment adjustment that the district was entitled to. Fiscal year '26 that we're living in, the $960 is from a healthcare adjustment that went straight to bank cap. It was not used in the current year. And then this year, like I mentioned, we had a $2 million healthcare adjustment. We used $677,111 to help support that tax levy increase. That left us with $1,327,992, and that falls into banked cap. So our total bank cap for this budget cycle now is $2,682,210. Still me, sorry. Reserve funds, we also have reserve funds I mentioned earlier. They're like savings accounts. We have two types of savings accounts. They're tax neutral. The first one is a cap reserve, and the other one is a maintenance reserve. The cap reserve, we're pulling money out of that, I'm going to say savings account, to cover the cost of our ESIP payment. That's a project that we took part in about 5 years ago, and we had a number of building and grounds type upgrades completed, and then you pay it back over a 15-year, it's an energy savings improvement plan, you pay it back over a 15-year payback, and the payment for fiscal year '27 is $563.04. And the required maintenance is just going to help the district fulfill the expenditures of maintaining our 5 buildings at 377-2. So as of March 1st, on that cap reserve account, we had $1,804,000 in there. We're on tap to and budgeted for fiscal year '26 withdrawal of about $477,000. And then we're planning $560,000 304 for fiscal year '27. And that would leave us with a balance in capital reserve of $766,392 as of today. That does earn interest on it as well, so that's helpful. And the maintenance reserve today, as of March 1st, I should say, $1,061,352. We're scheduled to make a withdrawal in the current year of $396,260. And then in '27's budget, it includes $377,200, and that would bring that down to $287,892. So taking a look now, what does that all mean? How does it impact everybody? We get information from both the township assessor and the township collector. And you compare '26 to '25, and we look at the ratables. And the ratables, you can see, are in the billions. Although it's decreased from '26, or I should say from '25 to '26, it's $1,982,000. It's negligible. It's not even 1/10%. And then the tax levy is the second column over. Our tax levy for each year is entered, and then we get that tax rate by dividing the ratables into the tax levy, and then we take the tax rate and multiply it by the assessed value. The assessed value in '26 did increase $460 to $372,660, and that means the increase for taxes for '26 at $8,568.18 is $264.18 more than the 2025 rate of $8,304.
So as Ms. Decker said, this is the first time actually in a couple of years that we've been doing this budget that the average assessed home has actually increased. So again, the average assessed home in Sparta is $372,660. What all of this means when you shake out the 2.99% tax levy is that on the average assessed home, the taxes will increase $264.18, or what amounts to $22.01 per month. This is just to give you an idea of what our tax levy has looked like since 2016. Again, 2% is what is allowable by law typically until you dip into the banked cap when appropriate. So you can see anything that deviates that's above the 2% is a year that we would have dipped into the banked cap, including the fiscal year 27, which again is 2.99%. And this is just another breakdown of a lot of things that we just discussed. It's just the side by side, the year by year. Next year's budget, line by line, compared to the budget year that we're living in. And you can see, I'm not going to go through line by line and read it out loud, but you can see instruction stayed flat. Anything in parentheses obviously is down by that percentage. Anything that's not in parentheses is because of an increase of that listed percentage. And you can just see a side-by-side comparison is really just reiterating what we've already talked about.
So if we took those totals from the general fund on the slide before for fiscal year 26 and 27, we're trying to get together and see the apples to apples. It's hard to see in the total general fund figures what's not the same. So this slide helps us pull that out. The reserves for 26 that we're living in is $1,355,000 deduction, and then the reserves that are scheduled for fiscal year 27 are $937,504. Prior year encumbrances, the DOE makes us roll over or add in everything that was not paid at June 30th of last year into the next school year. So just like your house on December 31st, you don't have all your bills paid. You're going to pay some of your December bills in January. We pay some of our fiscal year 25 bills in 26. That's $274,344. So when you pull out the reserves, you pull out the encumbrance, what's not the same, we're left with the general fund total at the bottom. And when you compare 26 to 27, you see that same number, $1,691,209 that we saw on the revenue side, which is 2.2% increase. So the appropriations all we have is $1,691,209 to increase, which makes sense. It has to be on both sides.
Between this slide and the next, this slide will be used to help calculate the per pupil cost that you'll see on the next slide. But this is just, again, a look back over the past couple of years since 2016 of what our district enrollment has been. You can see there's a bit of a lag. They take the October 15th snapshot of the school year, and they use that to calculate your next year's budget. So you can see from 24 to this past October that we had a decrease in 73 students. So that might have been what contributed to some loss in state aid, was a lower enrollment. But you use that to calculate budgetary cost, a per pupil cost. Again, this is just a comparison between the budgeted year that we're talking about and the year that we're living in. The per pupil cost, you can see increases slightly. The administrative cost actually goes down a little bit, and the legal cost actually stays about the same, a difference of $1, as you can see. And this is per pupil. All those are per pupil. And then this is just the resolution that's on tonight's agenda. Everybody has seen this resolution. It's everything that we talked about. This is just officially how you need to board approve it to submit it to the county with this language and with these fields filled out. And with that, we'll turn it over to questions from the board.
I would say 2 questions and discussion, if that's appropriate. So, anyone have anything they'd like to ask or add? One thing, I'll let everyone go first, but one item I just want to clarify. Ms. Decker, I believe you misspoke, and I just want the record to reflect. For the ACES program, utilities, we did enroll March 1st, as you mentioned. You had said May of 26 were enrolled through. I think it's May of 27. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
First of all, I just want to say thank you for you and the team to come up with this, because this is not an easy thing. Anytime you're affecting someone's livelihood, it's not an easy topic. And I just want to say thank you to all of you for doing this. These are not easy discussions, and this board knew about this, I think, even earlier. Some of us were saying that we knew healthcare was going to be an issue a long time ago. And I just want to say that outside of that, I think we would have been in good shape. But unfortunately, a 16% increase in healthcare is going to cause a structural change. And the decisions, even though the board doesn't make these decisions, we get to approve them, we get to hear them. I don't think anybody at this dais took it lightly. And I just wanted to go on the record that I took it very hard because it's not an easy thing to do. And the way healthcare is shaping out, it is a structural problem, and it's continued to be a structural problem. People who get elected to national offices will have to deal with how to deal with that. Unfortunately, this is where we're at, and these changes are necessary. I mean, we could have done other things, but we would have been here having the same discussion a year from now. So it's probably better we do it now and cause less grief in the district than to try to use money and raise our taxes way over what we probably all would have wanted to. So that, I just want to say that this was not taken lightly. Healthcare is an issue, and all of these changes, unfortunately, are necessary. And I thank everyone here at the dais to have the bravery to do this now and not kick it down the road, right? That wouldn't help anybody in the long term. So I just want to say thank you. Not easy, and this is all 50% increase in healthcare is just untenable. And if it continues like this, I have no idea what happens in the next budget.
I have two questions, or just more of like clarification. I know these are things that we talked about, but I think in general it'd be good to discuss as a board. Can you tell us things that we have done, or the district has done, to try to get ahead of this healthcare crisis? And because we knew down the line healthcare was rising. So I know that as a district, we did things in general to try to get ahead and foresee those things. And then I'll ask my second question afterwards.
Sure, yes, thank you. So we moved from the self-insurance that we were in for about 5 years to a private provider, and that definitely reset the overall costs of the district. It lowered our base, so now when we see increases, at least our base has come down. And there's also a little bit better protection. When we were self-insured, there's a lot more exposure. Every claim that has to go through from any member of the subscriber group or their dependents goes right straight to the district. We pay by the claim, not by premiums per month. So that's an expensive, and it's a big gamble, because even with a large group like us, you never know what could happen to anybody and what could happen health-wise. So we've certainly gone back to the more traditional type insurance coverage. With our broker, it was best for us, and then that brought that premium in general down to help us reset the costs of healthcare before we knew about those large increases that we anticipate now for fiscal year '27.
Thank you, Barbara. And my second question is, and it was referenced in the presentation, but just again to clarify, how is overall programming going to be affected in our schools? Like, what are students going to feel when it comes to instruction by what we can see right now? I know we have to see how this budget shakes out, but preliminary.
That's a good question. And when we are creating a budget, it's the focus of the entire administrative team and of the Board of Education, really, to put the students first and to figure out how we can best right-size this budget, given the very challenging circumstances, and figure out how we can continue to give students the same experience that they're gaining, that they have been getting in our school district. And I can say that this budget maintains all of that programming that students have been accustomed to on the elementary level through the high school level. We are going to be able to be offering the same type of programming with some minor, obviously with $5 million, there's going to be some minor revisions.
Okay, so I just want to hit on a few things. Rocky said a lot of what I had to say very well. This was an incredibly difficult year for us, and I'm sure even more so for our community. I will say, when it comes, and again, Emily also mentioned this as well, we are doing everything in our power as a board to avoid situations like this. But when we're hit with such a colossal increase when it comes to primarily the health insurance, it put us in a very difficult and unique position. So a few things that I would just like to point out. The ACES program, which we did recently enroll in, certainly did help our utility costs, which is great. We're still exploring whether or not we're eligible through the NJSBA to also enroll with our natural gas and hopefully see some savings there. If there's any opportunity for us to do that in a timely fashion through our finance committee, that's something we're committed to doing, and revisiting any of these numbers to the best of what we can preserve is certainly the goal. I say that to say the work still continues. Another thing, this is more of a personal note, the members of this board are very, very, probably the people who I think most advocate for public education as a whole and respect and support our teachers and staff. So to Rocky's point, every single line was reviewed. Every single facet of our budget was reviewed. And I do respect and thank you, Ms. Decker, for the work that you do, because for those of us who were able to join you in the last few days and really go through every single line item and ask questions like, okay, this $10,000 here, what does this mean? What is it? And you had an answer to every one of them, and not only an answer, but reasoning to help us understand this very, very significant decision. Dr. Beck did mention this. Retirements and non-renewals are also factored into those numbers. So while we might not have an exact number to report comfortably at this moment, we can certainly strive for that next month so that we do have an accurate number to have an understanding of what that number actually entails when you see those reductions. But that is largely what a lot of our decision-making is based on. And also, to your point, other areas as well. It's not just teachers and staff in terms of those reductions. And again, to Ms. Decker, I appreciate your flexibility in some of those decisions, because in many ways they affect your offices. So thank you. A few other things to note, just on a general level. When we first came onto the board, the actual amount per pupil, I just want to rectify this, the actual amount per pupil from 2021 to 2022 for legal costs was $108. We've taken that number down to $54. I think that's something that this board deserves to celebrate and recognize, and granted, that's our budgeted number, but again, I'm proud of the fact that we've been able to establish proper legal procurement that's responsibly done. Again, the ACES program, we've expanded into Millennium Software, or Millennium Grant Services. We're constantly looking and discussing ways that we can explore funding through that. Emily mentioned switching over to Integrity and moving us out of the self-insured plan, which would have been even more colossal if we were still in that position. So I say all of this to say, as difficult as these decisions are, I am proud of this board and I'm proud of our administration for bringing us to this point. It is not easy. It is certainly not ideal, but ultimately there are many factors here at play that are outside of our control. And one other thing I would also say is that, we recently tried to pass a referendum in the best interest of our district, our schools, our students, teachers, and staff, and unfortunately that was unsuccessful. So when the community speaks, we must listen, and we're still going to advocate for that referendum to the best of our ability to give everyone the facilities that they deserve. But we have to make sure our house is in order first before we can do that. And with our enrollment numbers being what they are and the situation being what it is, this is what's in front of us. So we respect everyone's feelings. We appreciate everyone's support. We also appreciate and respect criticism. So by all means, I look forward when we open public comment. If anyone has anything they'd like to say, we're certainly all ears. Anyone else?
Also, not to forget that we have towns that are near us that are faring much worse because they kept kicking it down the road, Jefferson being one of them. I mean, the fact that we've been diligent in keeping things, these things have to happen, unfortunately, but we could end up like Jefferson, where they're cutting programs. We're not really cutting programs, we're just rearranging a little bit. So it's difficult, but exactly as you said, this is a statewide issue, and we're not the only ones. And the fact that we're only at 299 shows that there's been forethought in all this.
Anyone else? Okay, with that, we thank you. We'll be moving on now to our district HIB presentation, which will be presented by Ms. Barker, the Director of Student Support Services.
Hello, everyone. I'm Jamie Barker. I'm the Director of Student Support Services, and I'm going to be presenting on our student safety data system and our harassment, intimidation, and bullying data, specifically for Q1, which spans from September to December 31st. So the purpose of this is compliance with our Anti-Bullying Bill of Rights Act, as well as state law, but more importantly, just to have transparency and accountability, to review our data and trends across the district, to highlight our current action plans and interventions, and to engage our community and all stakeholders in our data and trends. So if you look here, there's a comparison between 2024, 2025, and 2025, 2026 for reporting period 1. You'll notice a significant decrease in incidents at the high school from 25 last year to 4 this year. Incidents of violence from 12 last year to 1 this year. Substance use from 11 to 2, and confirmed HIB from 1 to 0. So a decrease across the board in all of those behavioral incidents. Same at the middle school, there was a decrease from 6 to 1 in incident totals, a decrease in violence from 3 to 0, and then in confirmed HIB from 3 to 1. All other numbers have stayed consistently low across the board. So it's just important to note HIB, harassment, intimidation, and bullying. The law itself is very specific in terms of the parameters of what would be confirmed as HIB. It defines HIB as any gesture that is reasonably perceived as being motivated by any of these characteristics that are listed here. Regardless of where it takes place, it does have to cause a substantial disruption to the orderly operation of the school, but also the victim's school day and ability to access their education. So although some cases are not necessarily confirmed based on the parameters of this law, that doesn't mean that that behavior is not addressed through our district's code of conduct. That being said, we've worked hard to make sure that we have a balance in our trainings and our programs across the district with respect to HIB. And so there you'll see a highlight on the number of trainings and programs we offer, as well as data regarding restraint and seclusion, which you can see is isolated really to one school and a case that we have worked to address. Some key takeaways in just looking at these trends and patterns. Our reported incidents did from last year to this year in reporting period 1 go down by 85%. HIB confirmed cases went down 83%. And HIB allegations stayed pretty consistent, which is an indicator of continued student and family willingness to report concerns as well. So we can address them accordingly. So this reflects our improved school climate outcomes with fewer incidents across the board and a sustained commitment from all of our teams to transparency, reporting, and student support. So just a few of our highlights on some of our action plans and current interventions that are helping with this trend in our data. We are continuing to promote strong character across our schools and across the district through things like Student of the Month, Staff Member of the Month. One of the things that was added as a direct result to some of the patterns that we were noticing is Bus of the Month, which helped with some of that unstructured time, particularly at the elementary schools, and that's been really helpful. An increase in kindness awards and highlighting of positive behaviors, as well as then a expansion of our SEL response to intervention programming. So that's our social emotional learning across the district. We've worked to enhance our structure so that it's coordinated with our current instructional side for a response to intervention. And that includes a program and a structure that allows people to look at patterns and trends in behavior across the district and to implement Tier 1 education programming in the classroom, and Tier 2 behavioral support plans for students so that we're much more proactive in response to student behavior and our approaches. And we also have teams working together across the district of counselors and case managers and RTI committees that are working to look at our Tier 1 education in response to patterns and to be both proactive and restorative when it comes to discipline in our practices. So we currently have climate and culture teams established in all of our schools, and that was all coordinated with St. Elizabeth over the years. This year, we have a grant and partnership with Nurtured Heart, which has allowed us to focus on a universal approach to behavior across the board. We've worked to develop our peer and staff mentor programs and to really align our practices across all of our schools and across the district so that we can be proactive with regards to all of this and our behavior. We continue to have a lot of supports and events in place. Those are all things that have existed over the years and continue to expand. And our trainings for staff and also our current staff across the district and administrators are all being trained in this universal approach to behavior, which is another thing we're doing just to drive things forward. But all of our data is trending in the right direction, and we have a lot of committees and teams that are all working in collaboration and coordination with one another, which has helped that. Does anybody have any questions?
Does anyone have questions?
I have a comment and a question.
Yeah.
First, I would like to say I love the initiatives you're taking with things like Bus of the Month. I think that some people, from my thought, that some people might get it confused with everybody gets a trophy, but I think with awards like that or programs where you encourage good student participation and reward kindness and good behavior, I think it really does ring really well and it's effective, especially for younger students. I was curious in terms of incident reporting, is that generally speaking, like the stop it after administrators? I was just wondering what qualifies as reporting an incident?
Yeah, so the actual SSDS reporting, that is actually through the state, and we report our numbers that way, but each school reports out. We do have reporting systems, though, and we've worked to make sure that they're aligned through the district as far as where our behavior is logged, so making sure that all of that is in one place so that we can kind of see patterns and trends. And we also have things like the Stop It app, which brings the incidents to us. So the SSDS is the numbers that are then reactive to that, pretty much based on everything we address, but our use of Genesis and some of the different platforms we have allow us to then see the trends across the district and to be more proactive in looking at patterns and things like that. For example, we got Hipster this year, and that's been great because all of our HIB, it allows us to run reports and then see what are the patterns in the time of year and the time of day and where things are happening and what's being said or done. And so that's all being analyzed by our teams, and they're really user-friendly, which helps to make sure that we are able to be more proactive. So it's a combination of those things.
I also wanted to give a shout out to two things. First, to you and Dr. Rossi for all you do through C3 and for leading the Nurtured Heart approach in our district. So kudos to you both for that. But also, Hipster has been fantastic also for the board. When I first joined, I remember we would receive basically a cover letter that told us the number of incidents without a lot of data for us to analyze either. And I believe Mr. Martinez or Dr. Martinez was one of the first to really advocate for a more comprehensive approach. So Hipster has allowed us to see that. And it's also inspired some other initiatives through ideas and discussions that we've had to see some of the incidents and what we can do in response to them. Numbers are fantastic, so thank you very much.
Yeah, and that's really a result of everybody's collaboration and all the teams and your support as well. So thank you. Appreciate that.
Okay, and with our presentations concluding, we will move on to our student representatives report.
Last Monday, the KJS United hockey team returned to the Prudential Center for their second straight year in their quest for another state championship. The team won the match 5-1 to go back-to-back as co-op state champions. This team consisted of Sparta High School seniors Cody Sutton and Cooper O'Neill, as well as captains Cormac Gibbons and Eddie Brown. Congratulations to them on their incredible accomplishment. Spring sports kicked off last week with tryouts. Sparta High School just recently started up their girls' flag football team for the first time in school history. We wish all our spring sports teams the best of luck in their upcoming season. As for this past weekend, our Sparta High School students performed this year's play for the spring musical Grease. These students did a phenomenal job, led by their wonderful director, Ms. DeLucia. We'd like to congratulate seniors Caden Lawyer, Isabella Fernandez, and Jenna Flake for receiving the Jeff Seiberg Scholarship following their final performance. Congratulations to everyone who was part of the play on their fantastic performance.
In upcoming events, we would like to mention that the underclassmen spring dance is taking place next month on Wednesday, April 1st. In some club news, DECA recently returned from the state competition, which was held in Atlantic City, and we would like to congratulate Lauren Goff and Bree Flannery for placing top in their events and advancing to nationals. Finally, the Sparta Robotics Club attended the state championship last Saturday at NJIT. All 5 teams did very well, and Team 5249V Velocity advanced to the World Championship. So they will be headed to St. Louis in late April to compete against some of the best teams in the world.
Thank you both so much. May I have a motion to approve the minutes? Thank you, Emily. Second?
Second.
Thank you, Dominic. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed, any abstentions? Thank you. And with that, moving on to our superintendent's report.
Thank you. My apologies, this month is a lot shorter. My time and energy has been dedicated toward the budget. But I do want to reiterate the congratulations to the ice hockey team for back-to-back state championships, and also reiterate congratulations to the robotics team for everything that was just stated. I will add one more statistic, that Velocity is currently ranked in the top 5% out of over 20,000 high school and middle school teams from 50 different countries. So they will carry that with them into St. Louis. And 2 retirements to note on this evening's agenda. The first is Suzanne Nadimas, who is the 3rd grade teacher. 3rd grade teacher at Mohawk Avenue School. Ms. Nadimas has served the district for 28 years. And Allison Workmeister, the Human Resources and Substitute Coordinator here in Central Office, is retiring, and she has served the district for 25 years. So congratulations and thank you to them.
Okay, moving on to our board president's report. My family also had the pleasure of seeing Greece this weekend, and like always, it was a phenomenal experience. The on and off stage talent was nothing short of exceptional. On Sunday, Mrs. DeLucia did announce her retirement from our musical program. I would just like to thank her for 25 years of incredible performances. Sunday will actually serve as her last production. There wasn't a dry eye in the house for our graduating seniors that you guys have mentioned, so I won't name them twice. It was their last performance, and I just want to commend you for the clear impact you had on those students who sang your praises. So thank you, Mrs. DeLucia. For board goals and our board certification, our policy audit and our board certification, I will leave those to Emily for discussion at a later point of the meeting. In the meantime, Sparta will be hosting the NJSBA's Unsung Heroes event on March 23rd at the high school, where students across the county will be recognized in honor of this year's theme, Elevating Character, Strength Beyond the Spotlight, and we very much look forward to participating in that. As board and administrative team. We also have the National Honor Society induction on Thursday, March 26th at the high school. So again, anticipating a busy but inspirational and celebratory week to come. And over request, we can move on. May I have a motion to approve the HIB report, please? Motion. Thank you, Rebecca. Second. Thank you, Emily. Any discussion? Okay, all in favor? Or excuse me, we'll do a roll call.
Dr. Hinkle? Yes. Mr. Lakaruba?
Yes.
Mr. Lowry? Yes. Dr. Martinez?
Abstain.
Ms. Knoll?
Yes.
Ms. Williams?
Yes.
Mr. Wood?
Yes.
Ms. Serafino?
Yes.
And Ms. Gagnon?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Communications, I don't believe we have anything. Do we have something that we'd like to add to communications?
Yes, so I'll just add that last month's newsletter had a couple hiccups in it. It got sent out a few times. One, the link's not working, and then the second one that came out was an earlier draft that had typos and were missing sections. So between the two, hopefully we got all the information out there, but we've cleaned it up a lot more for this month's newsletter. So we apologize in advance for the confusion that went out to the community.
Well said. And with that, delegate and liaison reports, anyone have anything they'd like to report out for their respective committees?
We met with the Sussex Educational Services, I forget what the exact title is, but Sussex County Ed Services Commission. So we had to meet as a complete board, the delegates for the district, and I had mentioned the last meeting that they were going for a building. The board formally approved the expenditure up to $3 million to acquire that building. So now they can engage with the landlord, because the DOE said they couldn't do that until they got formal approval. We gave them formal approval. They are talking with the landlord the next day. So hopefully they'll have that building. The reason that I find that exciting is that as they grow, it potentially could offload some of the expenses we have in the district for some of those students. And it's within our town, so it's local, and it would be advantageous when we do need their services, that they're right there, and they have the building. So they can take more students at a better rate than what we possibly are paying now.
Thank you. Anyone else? It was a very quick turnaround since last month, so we might not have had as many meetings as usual. I know town council, go ahead.
Hi, so the C3 committee met last month, and we had a really lively meeting. It was pretty great. So we did discuss the district culture and climate survey, student safety data systems, including HIB. We reviewed our update of RTI and SEL structures, and we discussed the focus and goals of C3 based on the data that was presented. It was really a great conversation. We had members of the community, members of the board, and representation from administration there. It was some talks about how to engage with the community more, bring them more into our school buildings, physically actually, not just their names and what they do, but have them in and present to our students and staff. We talked about hosting TED Talks featuring community members and students. That went over really well. And we also decided on a focus for C3 moving forward, which is going to be community collaboration. So that is something that we are really excited about leaving that meeting. A lot of us had a lot of great ideas running through our heads. So thank you very much for that opportunity.
Excellent, thank you. And I was just going to mention town council, I know we're trying to work a meeting, so that will happen soon, and hopefully by next meeting, we'll have something to report. Anyone else for delegate and liaison? Okay, with that, we'll move on to public comment number 1. Public comments are invited on matters pertaining only to action items at this time. Please state the action item number as well as your name, municipality, and group affiliation if appropriate for the record. Each participant will receive 3 minutes to speak. Once you have had your allotted 3 minutes to speak, you will not be permitted to speak again until public comment number 2. All statements should be directed to myself as the presiding officer. The board or administration may or may not respond to any questions or comments after the conclusion of the public participation.
Angela DeLucia, Sparta Education Association President, Agenda Item 5.1. The Sparta Education Association stands here tonight with a deep sense of urgency because the reality of this proposed budget is clear. Educational staff are bearing the brunt of these cuts, and our students will pay the price. We recognize the very real financial pressures facing this district. Rising healthcare costs and a 2.8% reduction in state aid present serious challenges, and we don't take those lightly. We understand that difficult decisions must be made, but what's being proposed here is not simply a difficult decision, it's a devastating one. The loss of potentially 27 employees is not just a number. It's dedicated professionals, educators, support staff, colleagues, those who have given their time, energy, and hearts to this community. It's lives disrupted and loss of relationships that our students depend on every single day. This impact will be immediate and deeply felt. Students will enter their classrooms that are more crowded and less supported. They will lose trusted adults who know them, who guide them, and who help them feel seen and safe. What we are facing is not just a reduction in staff, it is a loss of connection, stability, and quality. We also cannot ignore the larger picture. Over the past 5 years, significant withdrawals have been made from the capital reserves. Nearly $1 million in state aid has been received in the past 3 years, yet we now find ourselves facing a shortfall of this magnitude. That reality raises serious questions that deserve clear answers. At the same time, our buildings continue to deteriorate. Our custodial and maintenance staff work tirelessly, but they are forced into a cycle of triage, addressing what is urgent while larger problems continue to grow. These conditions only add to the strain on our schools. So we must ask, how did we get here? And what is the plan to move forward? Because right now the cost feels too great. We are not here simply to oppose. We are here because we care deeply about our colleagues, our students, and this community. We are asking for transparency, for thoughtful planning, and for solutions that do not come at the expense of the people who make this district strong. We want to be part of the solution. Our members bring daily firsthand knowledge of what students need, and we are ready to work collaboratively to find a better path forward. We cannot accept the loss of potentially 27 employees of this community as the only option. Because once those positions are gone, the impact will not end with this budget year. It will be felt in every classroom, every hallway, every student experience for years to come. We all share the same goal: strong schools, supported staff, and opportunities for every student to succeed. Tonight, we urge you to make decisions that protect that vision, because that's what we stand to lose, and it's simply too important.
Hi, Jenny Derrick, Step into Sparta. I just have a couple of quick questions, obviously, about 5.1. Ms. DeLucia just spoke about 27 staff members. That was noted on the slides, 17 certificated staff members, and then riffing other staff members. So is that where the 27 comes from? Do we know, and I apologize because I was a few minutes late, so if it was included in your presentation, I'll go back and look at it, but do we know class size? And so then we can have an idea of how this is going to impact our students directly. Do we have an idea of where we are with attendance? We've had an improvement plan for the last 2 years. How are we doing with that? And that does relate to the budget. Does the enrollment numbers decreasing, how does our pre-K program relate to those enrollment numbers? Because we've been rising in our pre-K numbers, so if we've seen an overall decrease, what are the trends there? Sorry. So yeah, enrollment. I think that's it. Will both of these presentations be available, posted later? Thank you.
Anyone else for public comment? Seeing no one, motion to close. Thank you, Emily. Second. Thank you, Andrew. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any discussion? Any abstention? Okay. Bear with us one moment.
Yeah. Your first question about the staff breakdown on that slide showed 17 certified staff. And again, some of that's going to be through attrition, through retirements and non-renewals. We don't have the exact number today. In fact, we're meeting later this week. We were waiting for the budget to actually get approved before we started to analyze that. Class size, the adjustments that we're making, we're not anticipating a large class size increase, or a class size increase is not anticipated, I would say. That's not to say that a class or two or a few classes might increase in class size, but that wasn't part of our equation. Attendance, we still don't have the official attendance reports. We get those toward the end of the school year. And then pre-K enrollment. How that's counted.
Pre-K enrollment is increasing each year, and we have a universe that we have to meet. And next year, for fiscal year '27, our universe is up again. So that's how we're receiving more funding based on the universe that we're supposed to have.
The pre-K funding slide that Barbara went through, and it showed the special revenue, that special revenue from that slide is strictly dedicated to pre-K, and it cannot be used, can't be utilized elsewhere. The pre-K enrollment, as Barbara said, is going up each year. We're adding classrooms next year. So in addition to the classrooms we have this year, we are adding more, and we still have roughly 60 students that were waitlisted because we need to get more room.
And just two things that I'd like to add. I know the comment was made by Ms. DeLucia regarding capital reserves and maintenance reserves, and I believe it was the last 5 years that you said that you had analyzed. My first year, if I'm not mistaken, and Barbara, perhaps you can't speak to this as well because Joanne was our BA at the time, but if I'm not mistaken, we were in the low hundreds for at least maintenance reserve, because I remember it was an issue that I consistently raised. So I just want to clarify that that's something, and again, I'm willing to pull back my old notes. This is a newer notebook, so forgive me. And to the point of wanting to be part of the solution, I think that is welcomed. I certainly don't speak on behalf of the administration, but I do speak on behalf of the board in some capacity, and I would say any solution is welcome, any discussion is welcome, but unfortunately, these are the numbers that we're dealing with, so we're going to have to compromise and work within those margins. But I think collaboration is certainly the goal, and anyone that's willing to be part of the solution, I would say certainly welcome. So, and with that, we will move on to personnel and policy. Forgive me, I do not have the numbers written out as I usually do. It's been a busy night. Thank you. May I have a motion to approve items 15.1 through 15.27?
Motion.
Was that Dominic? Thank you, Dominic. Second?
Second.
Thank you, Rocky. Discussion.
Okay, so we had a very productive meeting this month. I'm going to start off by reiterating Dr. Beck's sentiments. Congratulations to our retirees, Ms. Davis and Ms. Workmeister, and thank you for your years of service to the Sparta School District. The biggest thing I think we see on this agenda is there are a lot of policies that we're going through. So as a committee, we have really started digging into the policies. So when we go through, I just want to point out a couple things. 15.19, these are all policies that we are abolishing or beginning the process to abolish. We went through, this came from our Strauss SMA audit. For the most part, none of these apply to our school. Like all of these special education receiving schools, we are not a special education receiving school. In the years prior, a Board of Education probably just passed them because they exist and just included them, but they're irrelevant to our schools. And we also see that with independent study programs, early graduation, those are all things that have now been included in newer policies that are much more up to date. And these are old policies that, again, just like really don't bear any importance or are addressed somewhere else in a different policy. Also moving into 1521, these are two policies that we are amending for the first time. Policy 1220 is employment of the CSA. The only change that we made to that, just to address that, this was what qualifications the board has to apply when interviewing or hiring a new superintendent. And the only thing that we added is experience, that there should be, did we say 3 or 5? 3 years of administrative experience in order to apply to this position. Before, there was no experience requirement before. And policy 6470, electronic funds transfer and claimant certification, there's just a typo in there on the title of it and the number. We have it under a different number, so that's why it's being amended. The actual policy itself is not changing. And I just wanted to point that out. If there are any questions about a specific policy, I can address it as well.
Well said. And the only thing I'd like to add to that, so As Emily mentioned, we did receive both our NJSBA policy wellness check, which is part of our board certification process, and we also received the results of our Strauss-Esme audit. So what we did as a committee was we tackled the Strauss-Esme audit first, starting with the list of policies and regulations that they recommended for abolishment, as she mentioned, and we started moving on into the ones that are flagged for revision. So the goal for next month is focusing on those revisions and then also looking into the NJSBA recommended revisions or policies to frequently revisit. And we will be doing that next month. So good progress all in all, but month one of policy audit on the books. And may we have a roll call, please? Oh, any other discussion, I should say. Rocky, did you have something?
Yeah, I just want to say thank you for doing that. What is misunderstood sometimes is that a policy can end us in a big hole if it's not written correct or gets applied because we didn't realize it was there. So this is all very important work because it protects the district, the staff, the students from having to spend money on Jackies of the world if we don't have the right policies in place. So this is very important work. Thank you, Emily, for doing it.
Awesome. You just reminded me of one other thing. Something else that arose from the Strauss-Esme audit, we actually did find a cluster of policies that had been previously abolished by former boards, this was years ago now, that were still live on our board docs website. So we also had our administrative team go through and comb through and weed those out, which was great too. So speaking to your point of liability and confusion, certainly good progress being made. And just for the record, the templates that we are using are predominantly Strauss-Esme recommended templates. So we're really not striving to deviate much from template policies. To Emily's point, we are incorporating optional language where it's appropriate, but the goal is to remain as compliant both with the law and standards as possible. And of course, as needed, if we ever have a policy we're not sure about, we will reach out to Jackie. But no offense to you, the goal is to avoid that as much as possible. And anyone else? Roll call, please.
Dr. Hinkle? Mr. Lakaruba?
Yes.
Mr. Lowry?
Yes.
Dr. Martinez?
Yes.
Ms. Knoll?
Yes.
Ms. Williams?
Yes.
Mr. Wood?
Yes.
Ms. Serafino?
Yes.
And Ms. Gagnon?
Yes.
Motion's carried.
Thank you. Moving on to curriculum, instruction, and special services, items 16.1 through 16.6. May I have a motion to move? Thank you, Chad. Second?
Yeah, if I could just add a strike 16.6, that use of healthcare adjustment somehow showed up in curriculum. It also shows up under finance where it belongs, so we're striking 16.6 in curriculum. Through 16.5 would be the.
Okay, understood. So would it, excuse me. 16.1 through 16.6 as amended, or? Okay, in that case, motion to move curriculum items 16.1 through 16.6 as amended. Thank you, Chad. Second.
Second.
Thank you, Dominic. Discussion.
Yes, so we had a lot of good takeaways from the curriculum meeting this month. At a middle school level, our conversation really focused on better understanding student interests in elective offerings and identifying where there might be opportunity to expand or refine these options. Interest obviously varies by the year, and I think something we're seeing too, generally speaking, is some alignment from like thinking about elementary school to middle school to high school. I think alignment is important to us to ensuring that pathways are open. And we also discussed ways to gather that input, including surveys and giving out students and families visibility into potential course options. At the high school level, or still middle school level, but we're looking into the idea of high school credit at the middle school level. We discussed the possibility of awarding high school credit for advanced coursework taken in middle school, particularly in subjects like math and world languages. We've looked into it, and these courses are taught by certified teachers using high school criteria. And other districts do this, and we've considered the negatives as well as what are the negative implications of this, but there's coming up to be few to none. So we're continuing to explore how this could be implemented. In terms of the extended learning program, the administration has introduced a new initiative supporting the opportunity for students who are approaching proficiency benchmarks. So the goal would be to provide additional reinforcement and exposure to test-taking strategies so these students are better positioned to meet benchmarks while also increasing confidence. Because I think this issue we see, especially with younger learners, is that when you're faced with a lot of standardized exams, the content isn't always the issue. It can just be the confidence while taking exams, especially as they're newer to bigger style exams. And a quick note, as Ms. Parker mentioned earlier, we'd like to recognize some staff members, Adrian Castorina and Cherry Shefferman, who completed certification through the Nurtured Heart approach. continuing to strengthen their support throughout the district. And just a special shout out to Sherry Shefferman, because I know that I've seen her personally from a very young age, and I think she's really transitioned and blossomed through the district. I think she's a great example of what Sparta teachers have to offer, in the sense where she appears to be always pursuing excellence and trying to better herself and understanding. And I think she's just a really excellent teacher in the district that I think deserves the support and recognition. So thank you.
Thank you. Any other discussion? May we have a roll call, please?
Dr. Hinkle? Mr. LaCaruba?
Yes.
Mr. Lowry?
Yes.
Dr. Martinez?
Yes.
Ms. Knoll?
Yes.
Ms. Williams?
Yes.
Mr. Wood?
Yes.
Ms. Serafino?
Yes.
Ms. Gagnon?
Yes.
Motion's carried.
Thank you. Moving on to finance items, may I have a motion to move items 17.1 through 17.10?
Motion?
Thank you, Rocky. Second? Thank you, Andrew. Discussion.
Yeah, I'll be quick. Bus inspections are going on in March so that we have a safe fleet. Buildings and grounds, as I had said in previous months, I was waiting for roof repairs to come in, and they did. Sports fields are getting the required attention for the upcoming seasons. And we've all been very excited about the decrease in our electric bill of roughly 40% by joining the Alliance. As most of you could assume, we've been really concentrating on the budget, so that's it for tonight.
Thank you. Anyone else for finance? Okay, may we have a roll call, please?
Dr. Hinkle? Thank you. Mr. LaCaruba?
Yes.
Mr. Lowry?
Yes.
Dr. Martinez?
Yes.
Ms. Knoll?
Yes.
Ms. Williams?
Yes.
Mr. Wood?
Yes.
Ms. Serafino?
Yes.
And Ms. Gagnon?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Thank you. And operations item 18.1. Motion.
Yeah, do we want to, yeah, go ahead. Motion.
Thank you. Second.
Second.
Thank you, Dominic. Go ahead.
Just want to thank the parent who's driving for the marching band. Thank you. The district appreciates your effort. And I was going to save this for, at the end for, I forget what it is, but I just wanted to give Dr. Beck a thank you for Consider Operations. This winter was very taxing on you, having to make some calls about weather. And I am glad that you we have, thousands of souls have to come to these buildings. And the fact that you always put student firsts and staff, student, and even parents and buses and first. I know I'm the first to be a little critical, but I also would like to be the first to say thank you for putting lives important in front of a day, right? Because any accident, any loss, because we're afraid to call a day, it's just not worth it, right? So it's either you call the day or we call in grief counselors for some tragedy. So I want to say thank you for making those calls, and it's very important that you make those calls the way you've been doing it. Thank you.
Thanks.
Any other discussion? Roll call, please.
Dr. Hinkle? Mr. LaCaruba?
Yes.
Mr. Lowry? Yes. Dr. Martinez?
Yes.
Ms. Knoll?
Yes.
Ms. Williams?
Yes.
Mr. Wood?
Yes.
Ms. Serafino?
Yes.
And Ms. Gagnon?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. And with that, we'll move on to old business. Does anyone have anything for old business?
Yes, I have an update on our board certification. So I've been in contact with everyone on the board about getting our final 2 training dates in. So again, I want to reiterate, April 25th is confirmed with Kelly Mitchell. We will have a training here from 10 to 1. And right now, it's looking like, as of today, we should be good for June 6th as well. I'm just waiting for Kelly to verify. So mark your calendars for lots of trainings. But with those 2 dates, we should be done with all our board training and pretty much done with board certification. Maybe just a couple of paperwork things, but that is the brunt of it done on June 6th.
And I just want to say I have a very heavy heart because I was very excited for our spring at Sussex County, making that cutoff and getting that recognition. Then we'll have to wait for the fall, but that's okay. It's still tremendous progress that we can be proud of. Anyone else for old business? Anything they care to discuss? Anyone for old business? Okay, with that, we'll move on to public comment number 2. The board uses the second public comment period to invite comments on all matters pertaining to the school district. Please state your name, municipality, and group affiliation if appropriate for the record. Each participant will receive 3 minutes to speak. Once you have had your allotted 3 minutes to speak, you will not be permitted to speak again. All statements should be directed to me as the presiding officer. The board or administration may or may not respond to any questions or comments after the conclusion of the public participation.
Ms. Sparta, I have a couple of more budget-related questions. Is there any impact to transportation, or will we see any changes in what the transportation looks like as a result of this budget? Will we be reported out? Will we get a report out on breakage? Do you know what the proposed co-curricular and athletic cuts will result, what the impacts will be for that? And then do you know, you briefly addressed that, it was up on the slide, that there'll be some impacts from the schedule change at Sparta Middle School. Can somebody please expand on that so we know what that means? Thank you.
Anyone else? Motion to close?
Motion.
Thank you. Andrew, second?
Second.
Thank you, Dominic. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions?
As far as transportation goes, there's no significant changes to transportation in this budget. Regarding breakage, it's really, really interesting, actually. The year that we needed the most breakage, the year that we needed the most retirements for breakage is actually one of the lowest numbers I've seen in retirements in my time here. Not a lot of calculation there. The schedule revision is going to start to be rolled out later this week and into next week in between the board meetings. Frank and his team, along with Tara and I, will help with the supervisor team as well. And the co-curricular, I do have the specifics, but I don't want to share those publicly until I speak to those individuals. It was up there. Oh, yeah, the only transportation which was mentioned was the elimination of late buses at the Sparta, at the high school and the middle school, which are lightly used as it is.
Okay. Moving on to for the good of the order. Does anyone have anything?
I do have something. I received some information from the Sparta VFW in regards to the Ralph Rojas Scholarship, which is available to eligible students and families connected to veterans in Sussex County. Dates, eligibility, and the application can be found online or through the Sparta VFW Facebook page. You can really search as is and you'll find it. So just if anyone's interested or knows anyone that's connected to veterans, it's a good scholarship opportunity.
Thank you, Chad. Anyone else? Okay. We will not be convening into closed session, I believe, correct? No need? So in that case, may I please have a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Thank you, Dominic. Second? Thank you, Andrew. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Thank you all. Have a nice night.
Sick as that. I was talking